Je pourrais essayer de parler en français, mais ça va être fatigant pour vous parce que mon français est un peu rouillé. So I will continue in English. And I wonder whether we can put the light on, because there's nothing playing behind us. So it would be nice to actually see you. Est-ce qu'on peut pas mettre la lumière? Because today we heard so many good stories and so many interesting insights, but also you have a lot of good stories and good insights. And so I will say a little something at the beginning, but then I want to turn it to you, and I want to invite you already from the very beginning to just pay attention to me, maybe with 50% of your attention. And with the other 50%, pay attention to what's going on in your heart, in your belly, in your mind, as we're talking about these very deep questions, like what is beauty, what is love, what is luxury, what is innovation, what is a world worth living in? Because as some of the people speaking in the panel said earlier, if we do not find a way to have a truly sustainable economy, there will not be a sustainable society. There will not be a nature that can sustain us and hold our human life together, because the planet actually doesn't need to be saved. It's humanity that needs to be saved. And many other species that we are destroying in the process of our difficulty of somehow creating an economy that achieves what I call regenerative value creation. That you create value for all stakeholders, and that you're successful in business because you help to regenerate people and society, nature and the climate. Now, the good news is that more and more of the companies that are speaking here today are making that a very important project. This wasn't the case when I started getting engaged in that 35 years ago. As Barbara said, I was then a co-owner of an industrial group of companies, very diversified, as it's often the case, a 140-year-old family company that was a trading house in Southeast Asia. And so we represented many big brands like Siemens and Carrier and Merck, but also Guerlain and many of the brands that you know. And I wanted to make this group sustainable, and I realized I cannot really do this alone, because I can have authority over certain parts of the company, especially the human social part. But when it comes to environmental sustainability, if I sell the products of other companies, then the markets in which they are designed need to shift. And that means that if Siemens is a predominantly European or Western company, Western markets need to change so that they will change their product design. So we brought together business owners and business leaders from around Europe, and at the time also Eastern Europe was opening up, so it was very beautiful to see all the discovery of what is a new economy in what was before the communist bloc. And I grew up in Germany, I'm actually German, just close to the Iron Curtain. And of course through North and Middle and South America, because this is where a lot of the American products are designed. And we said, okay, let's start together to try to move our own companies into the discovery of how can you be truly sustainable. And of course, also be economically successful, because without economic success, it's not possible to run a company. And it's interesting how today business success wasn't really addressed when people talked about sustainability. And unfortunately, that's very much the case throughout the world, because business and sustainability are treated almost as parallel enterprises. You try to make your company more sustainable, but it's a cost. And you can only take a certain amount of your profit to put it into that cost budget. Instead of really having the rigor of seeing it as an investment that has to have a return on investment, because you are as rigorous as in understanding what it adds to your value as a company as you are with the rest of your production. So this is the possibility of regenerative value creation, where we really look into how can we make the business success and of course also the economic development of regions and the environmental and social sustainability completely integrated. It becomes one thing where the business success brings more investment opportunity into sustainability, and the sustainability grows the business success. And the more we understand this connection, the more we want to do of it, the more we see what the return on investment is. And it's true, it's harder to calculate what a brand value is. But for example, the CFO of SAP, Germany's most valuable company in the stock exchange, a big software company, goes in the Financial Times and says, if our culture index increases by 1%, our profits increase by 60 million. So you can calculate that, and you can calculate that with a certainty so that a CFO of a stock exchange quoted company goes public with this. And when have you last heard of a CFO who cares about the culture index of their company? Normally these things are completely separated. This is HR, this is, I'm talking about money, I'm talking about investment, I'm talking about value, I'm talking about stock exchange. So in the future, this has to come together so that the sustainability questions become a central part of what's being discussed in the executive committee. Because what you see in the reality of many companies is that the sustainability directors are given a certain budget to do nice things, but they're not sitting at the table when the most important business decisions are being made. And hopefully this is more and more the case, not the case anymore in the companies that were represented here. But I think if we are talking about having an honest conversation, we have to put these questions on the table and ask ourselves, if we are really for sustainability, how do we become part of the central conversations about strategy in the CEO's office, in the chairman's office, the chairwoman's office, hopefully more and more, so that we can truly bring all of this together. Because while we are here talking about luxury, which of course is something extraordinary, we also need a very ordinary new mainstream of the economy. Because if we only achieve sustainability at the margin, in the very beautiful sideshows of society, then we will not become a completely transformed economy. So how can we somehow, in all the different sectors, arrive at a place where this integration happens? And I think luxury plays a very, very important role because it is so aspirational, because you long for it, you want to it. It's the desirability that was spoken about here. So if you have a desire for a brand that then is very outspoken about its sustainability, then you make sustainability also desirable. And we have to take sustainability out of the less cool, less sexy, more duty-driven and maybe even guilt-driven corner and bring it right into the center of society, make it very desirable, make it synonymous with beauty. And this is the question I want to now ask you, because if we make this personal and we ask ourselves, what is really the most important in our life? What is the most luxurious in that sense. Luxury as something that is exceptional, that's wonderful, that is desirable, that's something that we really long for in our life. What is it that you really long for in your life? What is it that is so beautiful, so desirable, that you orient your energy towards, your life force towards? And so I want to just turn the discussion towards you and suggest that you turn to your neighbor, and if you don't have one, please find one, and just take a few minutes to inquire what really matters to you. What is, if we think of luxury as the most important, the most beautiful, the most valuable, the most excellent, the most harmonious, as you describe it in your beautiful name, then what does it mean for you very personally, this luxury of life? And then we will hear from you and we'll start more of a conversation. And then we can see maybe how, in a very personal way, we could maybe find a way to bring it together with sustainability, with this regeneration of the life's healthiness in nature and in society and people, in our own life, where our own life is sustainable, it's beautiful, it's luxurious, whether we express that in a beautiful product or in a beautiful way of being. So please take some moments to talk with your neighbor, and then I will ring a bell, and then we start a dialogue. Yes, so please, if somebody would like to share.
Priceless. Emotion.
Priceless.
Emotion.
Silence.
Silence, he said.
Silence.
Wow.
Yes.
Time.
Time.
Human relations. We are agreed that is freedom.
Good. This is very succinct. I mean, we're getting to one-word definitions here. But you can say a sentence or two if you want to.
The first thing that came to my mind is health.
Health.
That is probably the most precious thing we have, the luxury to be in good health. So where do we take care of it? But the second that came to my mind is the one said about freedom. Because at the moment it looks like freedom is going away, little by little from us. And you maybe want to add some things.
Yeah. And for me it was also time, that, as it has already been said, and also the family and the time with the family, let's say.
Je vais dire plutôt en français, c'est effectivement de partager du temps avec les gens qu'on aime. Et ce qui est important aussi pour moi, c'est l'harmonie.
Oui, en effet, c'est aussi la transmission et les émotions, on en parlait tout à l'heure.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Alors j'ai parlé pour nous trois. On s'est aperçu qu'en fait il y avait plusieurs dimensions. Une dimension matérielle, une dimension temporelle, une dimension aussi d'un point de vue espace. I can make it in English as well. I'm sorry. And so it's a multi...
C'est bien de le dire en français, alors je comprends.
It's fine. It's a multi-factors, let's say. And so it's to complete a kind of harmony for life.
Peut-être ajouter aussi, parce que tout ce qui a été dit, je suis assez d'accord, la notion aussi de respect, la quête, le respect. Et je pense que ça fait partie des valeurs qui m'ont amené, il y a maintenant près de 20 ans, dans l'industrie du luxe. Cette notion de respect, qui je pense que croisait mes valeurs personnelles et qui font partie de ça. Voilà.
I understood the question as what matters to me in terms of sustainability. And so what matters most to me right now, I mean, besides the climate change, which is such a big issue, I don't know how it cannot be at the forefront of everyone's mind, but the most important thing I think is inclusivity, because I think when we talk about sustainability, we tend to forget that we're not alone. We all often have these conversations as, the West or the North. And I think we need more inclusivity, whether it's internationally or even at the level of our communities. We need to remember there are some of us who have less access to a lot of resources. And we need to remember that as much as, it's okay for us to use our resources to buy into luxury, it's also necessary that we use it to reach out to those who don't have those resources.
We think in terms of luxury. When I hear health, happiness, respect, it must absolutely not be a luxury. But the time can be a luxury because when you have money, you can buy times. Because you take a plane, because you rent some guys to do some job you don't want to do. So you can buy times, but not always. You can buy times when you're close to the death or not know why. So I really think in terms of luxury, not the basics. One more time, health must not be a luxury, not at all.
Well, it's wonderful to have heard from each of us. So when we do these innovation labs that Barbara was mentioning, we actually get everybody to realize they are an expert. Because expertise, the word, comes actually from lived experience. And we all have lived experience. And when we bring together business leaders from different companies to solve sustainability or other business challenges and opportunities, we bring them together in this way that we bring also outside experts, but we make everybody in the room an expert, because very often we think the ideas have to come from outside. But in fact, the ideas come from being together, from sharing together, from really looking deeply into what do I really care for, because somehow, if we are truly seeking for a luxurious economy, not an economy of luxury, but a luxurious economy, it has to have all of these qualities that you're talking about. If this is what we want in our life, then we need to see that we can create an economy that makes this possible. So that is something to innovate around, right? And that's why it is very important to find answers for question of climate, because if we are not answering the question of climate, we will have a terrible quality of life. And it's very hard to be peaceful and silent and at ease and in love when the world around you is falling apart. And there is so much opportunity to find, because when you ask most people in the world what they want, these are the answers. There is great agreement amongst us humans. What is a high quality of life? What is true luxury? And I love that you're bringing this here, Barbara, together, right? Because in some way, there is an old idea of luxury that maybe didn't care about any of these things in particular. But I think when we go into the heart of luxury, I see so much care for excellence, so much caring for working with a material and making the most beautiful product out of it, and doing it with so much respect, and taking the time to do it, and finding the inner peace and harmony to let the creativity come. So there is a way how luxury products, somehow they contain all this quality. So how can we bring it together into a whole economic system? Because when we at the moment look at our economic system, it's not like that. And yet, it's moving in that direction, because there are now more and more companies. When I started out asking these questions, 35 years ago, and with other business leaders and other stakeholders, like civil society and government and the unions and so forth, we were a crazy few, I mean, people were laughing at us. Now, It's completely normal to discuss this. We have landed in the center of society. Now we just need to make it real in that we, spread it throughout all companies, whether they are luxurious in terms of a category of price or whether they are not. Because wherever we do business, you were bringing in the global south, where I live a lot of the time and work, my whole life. If we are really taking care of everybody in the whole value chain, all the way to the suppliers of the natural products that end up in our, fabricated products, then their life can be a good life. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to have a very expensive brand product, but they can have a quality of life because they are part of creating this product, because the value is distributed all along that chain. And we are, for example, when we are talking about agricultural products, as we did earlier today, right? There is now a way of doing agriculture where you can be more productive and at the same time completely regenerate the soil. You can have a strong living environment for other species so that you can have strong biodiversity. You can have health for the people who are doing this regenerative agriculture because they're doing it without poisonous chemicals. The people who eat the products or use them in the production process don't get negatively influenced by poison. So we can actually completely rethink our agriculture, and it doesn't cost us money. It doesn't mean we have to give up profitability. Because in truth, when you ask most business people, that's the question they will ask, especially if we want to mainstream it, if we want to take it beyond a few and make it broad. You have to also address the question of profitability. And you can now do these things profitably. People are buying this not so luxurious maybe, but very highly appreciated brand Patagonia because it takes care so well of the environment and people. And people really pay more for this bag because they want to be part of that story. It's a different story, but more and more it becomes the same story. The Patagonia story and the big French luxury brand story becomes more and more similar. We now have the technologies that it takes to solve our carbon crisis. When we combine, on the one hand, renewable energy and efficiency, and on the other hand, regenerative farming, ranching, and forestry, because energy, renewable energy, can only reduce emissions. That's very important and wonderful. Regenerative agriculture, farming, and forestry can sequester carbon. It can draw the carbon out of the air into the soil where it belongs, where it creates a very productive, healthy soil that can produce much more food than we produce today, taking care of the whole food security crisis. If we do this now at a very large scale, over the next 50 to 100 years, we can reduce the carbon emissions of the industrial revolutions back to the pre-industrial age. And this is not some kind of pipe dreaming. This is scientifically proven. And it is profitable. Because now today there are farms in Brazil that farm on 50,000 hectares, and there are microscopic farms in India where 1 million women farmers farm on very small land, and they are much more productive with regenerative agriculture methods than the competitive, conventional chemical agriculture. But we need to help millions of farmers to learn how to do this farming. And this, again, takes transition. So it takes respect of what people are doing right now and respectfully invite them into a better way of doing things, which will take time. Thank you.